Here on the grounds of the Ontario Legislature, the odious Al-Quds Day rally has returned. Ostensibly, Al-Quds Day is all about showing solidarity for the Palestinian people, but it's really nothing more than a hate fest against Israel and Jews. And although groups need a permit to stage demonstrations at Queen's Park, well, the authorities have yet again turned a blind eye to the code of conduct because, as we all know, or as we all should know by now, radical Islam, well, that's special. I'm just trying to ask these people to articulate their opinions, and there's precious little of this. It's just chanting.
We are deeply concerned about human rights and justice for all. Number 2, we support Palestinians in their peaceful quest for freedom, democracy, and an end to the decades-long occupation of Palestine. Number 3, we oppose all forms of bigotry and racism, including Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and anti-Palestinian hate speech.
The headline of Haaretz is talking about the Knesset is turning Israel into apartheid. This is not Al-Quds Al-Arabi, this is not Al-Akhbar, this is not Press News or Faris News, this is coming from Haaretz. Another columnist in Haaretz, Gid'on Levy, talks about massacre in Gaza and genocide in Gaza. I say to those Canadian politicians, get some education. Do yourself a favor, read and get educated about what's happening in Palestine and what's being written about Palestine and what's being said about Palestine.
Friends in humanity, my brothers in other faiths, at these Al-Quds rallies, I have spoken to my Christian brothers and sisters. I have spoken to my Jewish brothers and sisters. I have spoken to my Muslim brothers and sisters. I have spoken to even atheist brothers and sisters, because there's one common denominator in all of us. We have the love of humanity and justice in our hearts, and that's what has kept us coming here to these functions every year. The only thing we will not tolerate is not a religious or a faith community. We will not tolerate any injustice or any unjust development or unjust entity, wherever they are, in any state, form, or whatsoever. More than any other nation on the face of this earth, the Zionist entity of Israel has been condemned by the United Nations, by human rights organizations, by any believer of justice and love of humanity. Why? You're saying that it's anti-Semitism, it's anti-Judaism. Then I would say, why are my Jewish brothers and sisters here today and every year? It's not a matter of Semitism or anti-Semitism. It's a matter that the government of Israel, the state of Israel, has committed acts that no other country and no other nation, no other entity has committed. Against innocents, against children, against the vulnerable, against the elderly. You will see everywhere around you, those who are the most vulnerable get attacked by the Zionists. Why?
We are honored and grateful to have many of our Jewish brothers and sisters standing with us here today to reject the hateful ideology of Zionism that justifies occupation, incarceration, and use of force against the indigenous Palestinian people. I am honored to welcome one of the leading Jewish activists of Canada, who has dedicated his life for defending human rights and exposing the Israeli war crimes. Here today on behalf of the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War, I'd like to call up Brother Ken Stone to address you.
Israel also continues to violate the national sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria because it uses it allows terrorists to use the illegally occupied Golan Heights to attack Syria. And Israel has supplied arms to ISIS and other terrorist groups. It has bombed Syria more than 100 times in the course of the 7-year-long war. And it has worked with the Kurdish separatist elements in Syria to try and help the U.S. partition Syria, which is a violation of international law. So the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War congratulates the courageous Syrian Arab Army for liberating Aleppo, for liberating eastern Ghouta, for liberating the Yarmouk refugee camp, in the south of Damascus. The lesson of Yarmouk, where Syrian soldiers and Palestinian militiamen laid down their lives to liberate the homes of Palestinians who were exiled first from Palestine and then by the terrorists in Damascus, shows that the Palestinian and the Syrian struggles are indivisible. They're one and the same thing. If you are for Palestine, you must be for Syria. If you are for Syria, you must be for Palestine.
What was her name, sir? Eva Bartlett? Okay, Eva Bartlett, world-renowned journalist. I've never heard of her, but anyways. Hello, Eva Bartlett. This gentleman wants me to interview you.
I'm not interested.
Suddenly the activist and journalist cat got her tongue.
There is no need for poverty in Gaza. Palestinians are entirely capable of working and earning a living. But the Israelis, those people over there, they support the murder of Palestinians. The Israelis ban imports, they ban exports. When Palestinian fishers try to go into their water, and they're allowed to go 20 nautical miles, when they try to go into their water, they're gunned down when they're just 2 miles off the coast. And I've been with these fishers. I know what happens. They go out in their trawlers, they're only 2 or 3 miles off the coast, and the massive Israeli gunboats come at them, guns blaring. They gun on Palestinian fishers all the time. Fishers are killed, fishers are kidnapped, their boats are stolen, their boats are burned. This is one aspect of their economy totally destroyed. Then you go to the border region. Now, the protests that we've been seeing of recent are very important, but they're not new, nor is the massacre. The Israelis have been massacring unarmed Palestinian protesters for years throughout occupied Palestine. But if we look just at Gaza, in 2008, 2009, 2010, I participated in countless protests with young women, young men, with youths, with older women, participating, walking on their land, chanting, Free Palestine, completely unarmed. And it was always the Israelis that began shooting on unarmed protesters before any rock was thrown at the extremely highly armed military with their precision snipers. And now I'd like to address the media lexicon. I'm sure you're aware the way the media portrays what's happening in Gaza. They use clashes. These are not clashes. You cannot clash against a highly armed Israeli sniper with a stone, with a burning tire. These are not clashes. This is massacre. And our media is lying to us, just as our media is lying to us on Syria. What is happening in Syria is very much linked to what is happening to occupied Palestine. It's the same enemy. It's Zionism and imperialism. They're working hand in bloody hand. I've been just now to Syria and I went to Ghouta. The testimonies I heard were hellish. People were talking about executions in the street by sword or by point-blank assassination. They were starving, but it wasn't due to the Syrian government. It was due to the terrorists that took every bit of food that existed in Ghouta or came into Ghouta, and then they kept it for themselves or sold it at prices that Syrian civilians could not afford. They did despicable things to Syrian civilians, and yet our media blamed the Syrian government and the Syrian army. I swear to God, if you go to Syria and talk to Syrians, they will say, thank you to the Syrian army that saved us, and get the hell out of Syria to the terrorists that have destroyed us.
The Canadian Peace Congress was founded in 1949. Just a few short years after the historic defeat of fascism in Europe and in Asia. And we have continued to this day to stand up for peace, for disarmament, and for anti-imperialist unity. And that resonated at the time in the late 40s, and it continues to resonate today. I want to begin by expressing what's already been expressed by others, our profound condolences to the families of all of those victims, more than 125 killed and thousands injured at the hands of a callous and vicious attack from the IDF forces and the Israeli state in Gaza. Most of us, if not all of us here, consider ourselves to be internationalists, to value the virtue and the importance of internationalism, especially in the world today. But what is genuine internationalism today? Genuine internationalism, short and sweet, is to express not only our activities and our struggles in our own countries, but also to support all peoples around the world, in all countries, large and small, who stand up for their independence, for their sovereignty, and their right of national self-determination. That's what internationalism is today. It means anti-imperialism, whether it's in the besieged state of Venezuela, which is under the gun of US imperialism as well, or in Yemen, or in Western Sahara, or in Syria, or in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and certainly and not least, the just struggle of the Palestinian people. Together, united, we can win, we will win. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
It's hard to believe this is Toronto and not Tehran.
Yeah, it's, I mean, everybody has a right to protest, of course, but this goes beyond protesting. This is just pure, unadulterated hatred.
Justice we demand, no peace on stolen land. Justice we demand, no peace on stolen land.
This is anti-Semitism disguised as advocacy for Palestine.
Judaism! Yes! Judaism! Yes! Zionism! No! Zionism! No! Judaism! Yes! Judaism! Yes! Zionism! No! Zionism! No!
What is the most hateful thing, ma'am, you've heard at this protest today?
Well, Zionism is racism.
We oppose Zionism, but not Judaism. We reject the claim that Zionism and Judaism are one and the same. We believe that the goals of Zionism are discriminatory and are profoundly inconsistent with the values of Judaism.
Now, folks, I think this is the saddest scene I've seen at this Al-Quds Day rally today. Look at all those kids, maybe, what, 7 or 8? Who in their right mind brings children of that age to a political protest where things tend to get violent? A sight like this happening over here, it just makes you sick to your stomach in a freedom-loving country like Canada.
In Canada, yet another video has surfaced and gone viral. Another video that is appearing to show blatant police brutality, this time in Ottawa.
He just hit him! He just hit him!
According to Ottawa police, they initially responded to a man attempting to hit a security staff member with a metal pole. Police claim that when they arrived at the scene, another man attempted to punch a police constable. However, the video, captured by a bystander's cell phone, appears to show a police officer punching the man repeatedly in the head, while other officers pin him down to the ground. Police brutality and videos depicting it have made headlines in Canada several times in the past couple of years.